If you want to destroy a thief, you don't lock the vault. You leave the vault wide open, but you replace the gold with highly unstable dynamite. I didn't confront her. If I did, Sterling's army of corporate lawyers would bury me in injunctions, claim Clara was entitled to half the stone as a marital asset, and tie me up in court for a decade until the bank foreclosed on my lab. I needed them to steal the diamond. I needed Sterling to proudly stand on a stage in front of his billionaire investors and swing the hammer himself. So I went to work on the chemistry. I took the real, priceless rough diamond, packed it in an armored case, drove to a highly secure federal bank depository, and locked it in a vault. Then I went back to my lab. Modern technology allows us to create lab-grown diamonds using HPHT presses. I spent 3 sleepless nights programming my press to grow a massive 150-carat synthetic rough diamond. I programmed the machine to perfectly mimic the exact exterior shape, weight, and dull gray texture of the siren. To the naked eye, and especially to a corporate hack like Sterling, the replica looked absolutely identical to the real masterpiece. But a diamond's strength is in its internal carbon lattice. As I grew the synthetic stone, I intentionally introduced massive, catastrophic structural flaws. I built extreme microscopic internal tension nodes right along the exact cleavage plane that my 3D map recommended striking. The fake stone was essentially a pressurized glass bomb. If someone placed a blade on the marked line and hit it with a mallet, the kinetic energy wouldn't cut the stone cleanly. The internal tension would violently release. The stone would catastrophically explode into a cloud of worthless microscopic dust. I placed the rigged synthetic stone into my lab safe. I left the cloned 3D mapping files on my server. The next morning, I packed my bags for the seminar in Boston. I kissed Clara goodbye. "Have a great trip, Elias," she smiled, handing me my coffee. "Take care of the house, Clara. You know that stone is my masterpiece. I'll guard it with my life," she promised. I drove away. I let her open the safe. I let them steal the bomb. Now, they just had to swing the hammer. I didn't go to Boston. I drove straight to the downtown offices of the FBI's Art and Jewel Theft Division, accompanied by the most aggressive corporate litigator in the city. I handed the federal agents my original, time-stamped purchase agreements for the rough diamond, the bank wire transfers proving I was the sole owner, and the crystal-clear iCloud transcripts of Clara and Sterling explicitly conspiring to commit grand larceny, interstate smuggling, and massive corporate fraud. My lawyer smiled like a shark smelling blood in the water. "Elias," he said, "Sterling is using a stolen, heavily insured asset to solicit tens of millions of dollars from venture capital investors at a public gala. That isn't just theft, that is massive federal securities fraud. He is lying to his shareholders on a monumental scale." "Agents," I said calmly, "my wife stole the stone yesterday. Sterling is flying it to New York for a massive investor gala this Saturday. He is going to publicly strike the stone." The lead FBI agent looked at the texts and grinned. "Mr. Last Name, we won't stop the gala. We want to catch him soliciting the funds. We will have undercover agents in the audience. Let him put on a show." They were building a massive, glittering glass castle on a stage in New York, and I had given them the hammer to shatter it. Saturday night, live from Manhattan. Sterling had packed the ballroom with 500 elite investors, Wall Street bankers, and jewelry industry journalists. He was live streaming the event globally to pump up his company's stock price. I sat in my dark hotel room, watching the high-definition stream on my laptop. I poured myself 2 fingers of very expensive bourbon. Sterling strutted onto the stage to thunderous applause. The room went dark. Spotlights swirling, and a heady steel jeweler's anvil was rolled out. The dull, gray, synthetic rough diamond sat clamped perfectly in the center. Clara was standing in the VIP front row, looking incredibly proud, waiting for her payday. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sterling announced into his microphone, his voice echoing across the ballroom, "tonight we make history. I present to you the Siren, a stone I personally sourced and mapped with my own proprietary technology. Tonight, we unlock its true value." The crowd went dead silent. The dramatic tension was palpable. Sterling picked up the heavy steel mallet. He picked up the specialized cleaving blade. He aligned the blade perfectly with the laser-marked line I had drawn on the stone. I looked at my screen. I knew the math. I knew the extreme, catastrophic internal stress I had baked into that synthetic carbon lattice. Sterling raised the mallet high above his head. He struck the blade with maximum force. Crack. It sounded like a gunshot echoing through the microphone. The diamond didn't cleave into two perfect halves. Instead, the immense kinetic energy hit the catastrophic internal stress nodes. The 150-carat synthetic stone violently, spectacularly exploded. It didn't just break, it completely disintegrated. A massive cloud of gray, worthless, microscopic dust blasted outward, coating Sterling's expensive suit, his face, and the anvil in a fine layer of synthetic powder. There was no diamond left. There was only dust. The ballroom gasped in sheer, unadulterated horror. The livestream chat completely broke. Sterling froze, his jaw dropping. He stared at the empty anvil, frantically dropping the mallet. "No! No, no!" he screamed, his voice totally unhinged, desperately trying to scrape the dust together with his bare hands. In the VIP section, Clara dropped her champagne glass. It shattered. She put her hands over her mouth, her face turning the color of wet concrete. She looked like she was going to pass out. The elite gemology journalists in the front row immediately surged forward. One of them touched the dust on the anvil. "This isn't a natural diamond. This is a synthetic, lab-grown cubic structure. You tried to sell us a fake." The investors erupted into absolute apocalyptic chaos. People were shouting, demanding their money back. Sterling was hyperventilating on stage, covered in fake diamond dust, watching his billion-dollar empire vaporize in real time. Before his security could even escort him off the stage, the heavy doors of the ballroom burst open. Dozens of FBI agents in tactical windbreakers marched directly down the center aisle. I took a slow, deeply satisfying sip of my bourbon, smiled at the chaotic, screaming livestream, and closed my laptop.
You cannot unshatter a fake diamond on live television in front of the FBI. The fallout was an absolute, unmitigated corporate massacre. Sterling was arrested right on the stage, in front of all his investors, for massive federal securities fraud, wire fraud, and attempting to sell counterfeit goods, because he had lied to his shareholders about owning a $30 million asset. His company's stock price plummeted 80% by Monday morning. His investors sued him into absolute oblivion. His empire collapsed, and he was facing 15 years in federal prison. Clara's life was vaporized. Sterling, realizing he was facing a decade behind bars, immediately blamed her. He told the FBI that she was a rogue PR director who had supplied him with the fake stone and forged the documents, throwing her to the wolves to save himself. She was arrested at the hotel before she could even pack her bags. She called me from a federal holding cell, sobbing so hard she was hyperventilating. Elias, please, the FBI is here. The diamond exploded. It was a fake. You have to tell them you made a mistake with the scans. Please, I'll do anything." "I didn't make a mistake, Clara," I said calmly, leaning back in my chair. "I gave you exactly what you stole. You just forgot to check the internal structure. I read your messages, by the way. I hope you enjoy the view from federal court." I hung up and blocked her number. During our divorce settlement, she had absolutely zero leverage. Because she was a federally indicted felon facing charges for conspiring to steal a $5 million marital asset, the judge showed zero mercy. He awarded me 100% of our marital assets, the house, and my entire laboratory. She walked away with millions in legal debt and a permanently ruined life. You cannot unshatter a fake diamond on live television in front of the FBI. The fallout was an absolute, unmitigated corporate massacre. Sterling was arrested right on the stage, in front of all his investors, for massive federal securities fraud, wire fraud, and attempting to sell counterfeit goods, because he had lied to his shareholders about owning a $30 million asset. His company's stock price plummeted 80% by Monday morning. His investors sued him into absolute oblivion. His empire collapsed, and he was facing 15 years in federal prison. Clara's life was vaporized. Sterling, realizing he was facing a decade behind bars, immediately blamed her. He told the FBI that she was a rogue PR director who had supplied him with the fake stone and forged the documents, throwing her to the wolves to save himself. She was arrested at the hotel before she could even pack her bags. She called me from a federal holding cell, sobbing so hard she was hyperventilating. Elias, please, the FBI is here. The diamond exploded. It was a fake. You have to tell them you made a mistake with the scans. Please, I'll do anything. I didn't make a mistake, Clara, I said calmly, leaning back in my chair. I gave you exactly what you stole. You just forgot to check the internal structure. I read your messages, by the way. I hope you enjoy the view from federal court. I hung up and blocked her number. During our divorce settlement, she had absolutely zero leverage. Because she was a federally indicted felon facing charges for conspiring to steal a $5 million marital asset, the judge showed zero mercy. He awarded me 100% of our marital assets, the house, and my entire laboratory. She walked away with millions in legal debt and a permanently ruined life. In the world of high-stakes gemology, perfection is not an accident. It is an excruciating, terrifying mathematical equation. When you pull a massive, rough diamond out of the earth, it doesn't look like jewelry. It looks like a dull, gray piece of gravel. To turn it into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece, you have to perform what is known as the first cleave. You spend months using 3D laser mapping to study the internal structure of the stone, looking for the microscopic fault lines. When you finally place the steel blade against the stone and strike it with a mallet, there is zero margin for error. If your calculation is off by a fraction of a millimeter, or if you misjudge the internal stress of the carbon lattice, the diamond doesn't just cut unevenly, it catastrophically shatters into thousands of pieces of worthless, granular dust. You can lose $10 million in a single heartbeat. I spent my entire life learning how to navigate that pressure. I just never realized that the most dangerous, unstable structural flaw in my life wasn't inside a diamond, it was sleeping in my bed. My name is Elias. I'm 39 years old, and I am a master diamond cutter and gemologist. 6 years ago, I married Clara. Clara was a public relations director for a high-end luxury retail brand. She thrived in the glamorous, champagne-soaked world of Fifth Avenue boutiques, red carpets, and wealthy socialites. I was the quiet, introverted craftsman who preferred the absolute silence and extreme focus of my dust-free laboratory. But we were a team. I created the art, and she understood the market. 2 years ago, I took the biggest risk of my life. I remortgaged our house, liquidated every cent of my savings, and took out a massive high-interest loan to purchase a legendary 150-carat rough diamond from a private syndicate in Africa. I called it the Siren. It was a massive gamble. The rough stone cost me $5 million, but my early scans showed that if I cut it perfectly, it would yield a flawless D-color centerpiece worth roughly $30 million. I promised Clara this stone was our empire. I told her that when I finally made the cut, we would never have to worry about money again. She would be the wife of a legend. But Clara didn't want to wait for the math. She looked at my exhausted eyes and the endless nights I spent running computer simulations, and she decided she wanted the $30 million payout without having to share it with the mechanic in the lab. And she found a billionaire who was more than willing to help her swing the hammer.
The decay of our marriage started when Clara's PR firm signed a massive new client, a global diamond retail conglomerate. The CEO of that conglomerate was a man named Sterling. Sterling was 45 years old and the absolute poster boy for corporate arrogance. He didn't know how to cut a stone, and he didn't respect the earth it came from. He was a ruthless corporate financier who bought mass-produced, low-quality diamonds, slapped his luxury logo on the box, and sold them to naive rich people for a 500% markup. He wore $10,000 suits, flew in a private helicopter, and treated brilliant craftsmen like disposable factory workers. In my industry, guys like Sterling are considered absolute parasites. Suddenly, Clara was spending all her time at Sterling's glass tower headquarters in Manhattan, claiming she was advising him on a massive new brand pivot. The red flags didn't just quietly appear, they flashed like warning lights on my laser scanner. First, the profound, unapologetic disrespect. Clara started actively belittling my life's work. "Elias, you need to wake up," she scoffed one evening, tossing her $4,000 designer handbag onto our kitchen counter. "Sterling manages a billion-dollar supply chain. He creates global demand. You've been sitting in a basement staring at a rock for 8 months and haven't made a single dime. You lack corporate vision. Nobody cares about your precision, they care about the branding." Second, the intense secrecy regarding her devices. Clara changed her passcode on her laptop. She started taking phone calls in her car, sitting in the driveway with the engine running for 40 minutes before coming inside the house. Third, and by far the most terrifying, was her sudden highly specific interest in my laboratory vault. Clara, a woman who absolutely loathed the sterile smell of my lab, suddenly asked me exactly where I kept the physical 3D mapping hard drive for the siren, and what the sequence was to open the biometric safe. When a PR director suddenly asks for the safe codes to a $30 million uncut diamond, you don't answer the question, you run a deep-level security audit. When you keep a $5 million piece of carbon in your laboratory, you don't rely on a simple padlock. My entire facility was routed through a custom security mainframe that logged every single motion, temperature shift, and data transfer. One Saturday night, while Clara was supposedly sleeping in the guest room because of a migraine, my phone vibrated with a critical priority alert from the lab. I opened the Secure app. Someone was actively attempting to execute a mass file transfer from my local 3D mapping server to an unauthorized external flash drive. I didn't storm down the hall and kick the door open. I simply isolated the connection, artificially slowed the transfer speed to a crawl, and mirrored her laptop screen directly to my iPad. She had her encrypted messaging app open, communicating directly with Sterling. I didn't just find an affair, I found a premeditated multi-million-dollar corporate heist. Sterling wrote, "The investors for the New York Gala are confirmed. If I perform the first cleave of the siren live on stage and claim I mapped the stone myself, our stock valuation will triple overnight. Have you secured the physical stone and the mapping drive yet?" Clara replied, her words dripping with a casual, horrifying cruelty that made the blood freeze in my veins. "I'm copying the master 3D files from his server right now. I have the combination to the safe. Tomorrow, when he goes to the gemology seminar in Boston, I'll take the stone and the drive. We'll host the gala on Saturday. I'll serve him with divorce papers on Monday, and we'll be on your jet to Monaco. He spent every dime he had on that rock. He'll be completely bankrupt.
"He's just a naive rock cutter, Sterling. He won't be able to fight your corporate lawyers." Sterling responded, "You're a visionary, my love. The rock cutter is going to fund our entire empire." I sat alone in the dark, staring at the glowing screen as my entire reality shattered into a million pieces. My wife of 6 years was sleeping with a corporate parasite. Together, they were actively plotting to steal my life's work, hijack my $30 million discovery, publicly humiliate me, and leave me utterly destroyed with $5 million in debt. They thought I was just a naive rock cutter. They didn't understand the level of absolute, unmitigated chemical and structural destruction a master gemologist is capable of engineering.